Take off your jacket.
Uniform. You don't belong here.
3 words. 3 words that would destroy a military career built on cruelty and arrogance. Major Thomas Keller stood in his office at Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington, surrounded by officers who laughed at the small woman before them. She looked like nothing 5'3" freckled face, 20 years old. Just another female soldier to humiliate. He had no idea he was speaking to a Navy SEAL. What happened next would echo through military history. Before we begin, subscribe, follow this story to the end, and comment your city. Let me see how far this story travels. The cold morning air cut across Joint Base Lewis McChord like a blade. Riley Morgan sat in a 10-year-old Honda Civic she'd driven from Coronado, California. 2 days on the road. No military plates. No base stickers. Nothing that would identify her as anything other than another face passing through Washington state. She was 20 years old. She looked 17, and that was exactly why Admiral Marcus Shaw had chosen her. Riley checked her reflection in the rearview mirror. No makeup, hair pulled back tight. The army fatigues she wore felt wrong against her skin, not her service, not her branch. The name tape read simply, Morgan. No rank insignia except a single bar. No unit patch. No deployment indicators. She looked like a ghost. Good. Her phone buzzed. Text from Shaw, you're late. Building 7, 2nd floor. Go. Riley stepped out of the car. The base sprawled before her like a small city. Tired. Worn. Functional. The kind of place that had been at war for 20 years and showed every scar. She walked toward Building 7, each step measured, controlled. 8 years of training had taught her to move like water, silent, efficient, deadly when required. But today wasn't about stealth. Today was about being visible. 3 hours earlier, Riley had met Admiral Shaw in a safe house 15 miles off base. The interior smelled like stale coffee and old carpet. Shaw sat at a folding table, decades of military service etched into the lines of his face. The cane leaning against his chair was new. The tremor in his hands was worse than she remembered. You look thin, Shaw said. You look tired, sir. Cancer will do that. He slid a manila folder across the table. No classification markings. No official seals. Major Thomas Keller, 44 years old. Commands the Advanced Combat Leadership Academy. 18 years of service. Bronze Star. 3 deployments. Riley opened the folder. A service photo stared back at her. Keller had the look of a man who'd spent his career proving something to someone who would never be impressed. Square jaw, broad shoulders, eyes that held too much certainty. On paper, Shaw continued, he's exactly what the Army wants in a training commander. And off paper, 3 formal complaints in 14 months, all from female personnel, harassment, hostile work environment, gender-based discrimination. Shaw's jaw tightened. All 3 complaints were filed properly. All 3 were buried. Riley flipped through the documentation. The complaints were detailed, specific, the kind of specificity that came from people who'd been keeping records because they knew nobody would believe them otherwise. Why buried? Keller has friends, division level, people who think the military is getting too soft, too politically correct. They see complaints like these as noise. Shaw leaned forward. They're wrong, and I'm going to prove it. What do you need from me? I need proof, not allegations, not he said, she said. I need documented, witnessed, undeniable proof that Thomas Keller creates a toxic command environment. Shaw's eyes held hers. And I need him caught in the act. Riley understood. You want me to go undercover? I want you to apply to his program as a transfer candidate. Clean file. Sealed records. No visible rank indicators. Just another applicant he thinks he can dismiss. Shaw paused. Show me how he treats someone he believes is vulnerable. Then show him who you really are. The math was simple. Keller would see a young woman. Small. Quiet. Easy prey. He would reveal his true colors because he wouldn't imagine she could fight back. He had no idea what she was. One more thing, Shaw said. Keller failed SEAL selection twice when he was 25. Washed out both times. Spent 19 years bitter about it. A thin smile crossed Shaw's face. You're what he couldn't become. I want to see how he reacts. Riley closed the folder. When do I start? You're already late. Building 7 smelled like floor wax and old coffee. Riley took the stairs 2 at a time. Second floor. Hallway lined with office doors most closed. One stood open at the end of the corridor. Voices inside. Male laughter that carried too much confidence. She walked toward the sound. The office was larger than standard. Someone had claimed extra space. 3 men stood inside, clearly waiting. They turned as she entered. Major Thomas Keller stood center. He matched his photo tall, maybe 6'2" broad, through the shoulders, in a way that suggested hours in the gym. His uniform was perfectly pressed. Boots shined to mirrors. Everything about him screamed someone who cared very much about appearance. To his left stood a younger man, late 20s, muscular in the way that came from focused training. His name tape read, Drake. Lieutenant Bars on his collar. The third man was shorter, stockier, early 30s. Sergeant Stripes. Name tape, Brooks. He had the look of someone who'd made rank through time and compliance rather than exceptional performance. All 3 were staring at her. Keller's eyes traveled from her boots to her face. Slow, deliberate. The kind of scan designed to make someone feel small. You're the applicant. Disbelief dripped from every word. Riley stopped 3 paces inside the door. Feet shoulder width. Hands behind her back. The position was automatic after years of standing through countless briefings. Yes, sir? Keller exchanged glances with Drake and Brooks. Something passed between them. Amusement. Contempt. Definitely. You don't look like much. Riley said nothing. Let the silence stretch. Let him fill it. Your file says you're a transfer candidate for the Advanced Combat Leadership Academy. Keller walked slowly around her, circling like a predator, assessing prey. This program trains senior officers for advanced tactical command. It's physically demanding, mentally exhausting. Most candidates wash out in the first week. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Too much of it. So, I'm asking you again. You're the applicant? Yes, sir. Drake snorted. Brooks grinned. Did Daddy pull strings for you? Keller asked. Or did someone decide we needed to hit a diversity quota? The words hung in the air. Riley kept her face neutral. She'd heard worse. In Bud's, instructors had screamed things designed to break her psychologically. In combat zones, enemy fighters had shouted threats while she put rounds center mass through their chests. Words were just sounds. They only had power if you gave it to them. Sir, I'm here to complete the assessment. Nothing more. Nothing more. Keller smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. You hear that, gentlemen? She's here to complete the assessment. How ambitious. Drake and Brooks laughed on cue. The sound felt rehearsed, like they'd played this scene before with other candidates who'd walked through that door. Let me tell you something, Sergeant. Keller's voice dropped lower. This program isn't for people who check boxes. It's for warriors, leaders, people who've earned the right to command elite units in combat. He leaned closer. Do you understand what that means? Yes, sir. I don't think you do. He turned away, walked toward his desk. Before we begin any assessment, I need to know if you can follow orders. Basic discipline. The foundation of military service. He turned back toward her. Take off your jacket. The words landed like a physical blow, not because of what he asked, because of what it represented. Riley didn't move. Sir, I said take off your jacket. Keller's voice carried more edge now. You want to be in this program, you don't get to wear that uniform until you prove you're worth it. So take it off. Now. The room went quiet. Drake and Brooks watched. Other officers who'd been lingering in the hallway had stopped moving. Riley could feel eyes on her back. This was the moment. The test within the test. Comply and submit to humiliation. Refuse and give him an excuse to dismiss her application. Is that standard protocol, sir? Keller's jaw tightened. It is now. I give the orders here, Sergeant. You follow them. That's how the military works. Or did they not teach you that wherever you came from? Riley let the silence hold. 3 seconds. 4. 5. Let the tension build. Let everyone in that room feel the weight of what was happening. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile. Not a warm smile. The smile that crossed her face was cold and sharp and dangerous. The smile of someone who knew something everyone else in the room didn't. Sir, she said quietly, you just told a Navy SEAL to strip. The words hit like a flashbang in a closed room. Every man froze. Riley reached for her jacket. Slowly, with the deliberate precision of someone who'd spent years learning to move with perfect control. She unbuttoned it. 1 button. 2. 3. 4. She shrugged the jacket off her shoulders. Underneath, her tan t-shirt clung to her frame. Athletic. Muscular, in the way that came from functional training rather than aesthetics. And on her left shoulder, visible through the thin fabric, unmistakable even from across the room, the tattoo. Eagle perched above an anchor. Trident spear crossed with a pistol. The symbol of naval special warfare. The mark that separated SEALs from every other warrior in the American military. Below it in clean black ink Team 5. Below that service dates spanning 3 years. Drake's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Brooks took a half step backward. Keller had gone completely still. The color drained from his face like water from a broken vessel. Riley held her jacket in her left hand. Let the moment breathe. Let every person in that hallway see what Keller had just stepped into. You want to test if I can follow orders? Her voice remained quiet. Calm. The kind of calm that came from spending years in situations where panic meant death. I've taken orders under enemy fire in Helmand Province while dragging wounded teammates through buildings that were actively burning. I've followed orders at 0300 hours in the Pacific Ocean during operations you will never have clearance to know existed. She took 1 step forward. Keller didn't move. I've executed classified missions in locations that aren't on any map you've ever seen. I've made tactical decisions under pressure that you can't imagine. I've done things in service of this country that will never be discussed outside of rooms you'll never be allowed to enter. Another step. She was close now, close enough to see the sweat forming on Keller's upper lip. So if you want to continue this performance, Major, I suggest you choose your next words very carefully, because right now you have exactly 2 options. Riley's eyes never left his face. You can conduct a legitimate assessment according to proper military protocol, or you can explain to Admiral Marcus Shaw why you ordered a decorated naval special warfare operator with 3 years of combat service to undress in front of your officers. The silence that followed was absolute. Someone in the hallway coughed. The sound seemed impossibly loud. Keller's mouth worked. No sound came out at first. Then, barely audible, You're a SEAL. Riley's voice stayed level. Team 5, 3 years of service, 2 combat deployments to Afghanistan and Syria, multiple classified operations I'm not authorized to discuss. Current active duty status with Naval Special Warfare Command. She held up the jacket. Anything else you'd like me to remove, sir? Nobody spoke. Riley put the jacket back on, buttoned it with the same deliberate precision she'd used to remove it, adjusted the collar, smoothed the fabric. Now, she looked directly at Keller. If this assessment is legitimate, I'd like to begin. If it's not, I have a very detailed report to file with Admiral Shaw, the Inspector General's office, and quite possibly the media about what happens when senior officers abuse their authority to sexually harass female personnel. The words hung in the air like smoke. Keller found his voice. It came out strangled. The assessment is legitimate. Good. Riley's tone didn't change. Then I suggest we proceed according to standard protocol, unless there are other uniform items you'd like to discuss first. Keller shook his head. The movement was jerky, uncontrolled. The confident predator from 3 minutes ago had vanished completely. Drake, his voice cracked. He cleared his throat, tried again. Lieutenant Drake, escort Sergeant Morgan to the assessment staging area. Full protocol. Standard procedures. Drake hadn't moved since Riley revealed her tattoo. His face showed something strange, not just shock, but recognition, like he was seeing something he'd seen before but couldn't quite place. Sir. Yes, sir. Riley turned to leave. Stopped at the door, looked back over her shoulder. One more thing, Major. Keller's eyes met hers. Fear lived in them now. Real fear. You failed SEAL selection twice. I know because Admiral Shaw told me this morning. She paused. The difference between us isn't that I'm special. The difference is that when I got knocked down, I got back up. Every single time, until there was nothing left that could knock me down. She held his gaze for 3 more seconds. You quit. I didn't. That's the only difference that matters. Then she walked out. Drake led her down the hallway in silence. His footsteps were uneven, distracted. Riley could feel him processing what had just happened. Halfway to the stairs, he spoke. He stopped. Started again. I've never seen anyone talk to Major Keller like that. Nobody talks to him like that. Maybe somebody should have started sooner. Drake said nothing for a long moment. Then quietly, maybe. They descended the stairs, crossed a courtyard toward a separate building marked Assessment Center. Sergeant Morgan. Drake's voice had changed. Softer now, almost hesitant. Can I ask you something? You can ask. Helmand Province, 3 years ago. Were you part of Operation Crimson Shield? Riley's step didn't falter, but something shifted inside her. That operation was classified. Deeply classified. The kind of classified where people who talked about it disappeared into administrative nightmares that lasted decades. I can't confirm or deny participation in any specific operation, Lieutenant. Right, of course. Drake nodded quickly. It's just... I was there. Helmand. My convoy got hit by an IED. I took shrapnel in my shoulder and leg. Couldn't move. Taliban was closing in. He stopped walking. Riley turned to face him. Then someone came through the smoke, Drake continued. His voice had gone distant, lost in memory. Female operator, face covered, no name tape. She grabbed me by my vest and dragged me 50 meters through active fire to the medevac zone. His eyes met hers. I tried to thank her. She was already gone. The courtyard felt very quiet. Classified operation, Riley said softly. No names. Mission protocol. Drake stared at her, recognition dawning slowly across his face. That was you? It wasn't a question. Riley didn't confirm, didn't deny, just held his gaze with steady eyes that had seen things he would never fully understand. The assessment staging area, Lieutenant. We're burning daylight. Drake nodded slowly. Something had shifted in how he looked at her. The dismissiveness was gone. In its place was something that might have been respect. Might have been shame. Probably both. This way, Sergeant. They walked the rest of the way in silence. The staging area was a converted warehouse filled with obstacle course components, weight stations, and tactical training equipment. A dozen soldiers milled around, waiting for the day's assessments to begin. Among them, Riley spotted 3 women. They moved differently than the men, faster eyes down. The body language of people trying not to be noticed. She'd seen it before. Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan. Anywhere women served in proximity to men who resented their presence. One of the women caught Riley's eye. Young, maybe 24. Sharp features. Intelligent eyes that were trying very hard to look at nothing in particular. Her name tape read, Chen. Lieutenant Sophia Chen. Riley had memorized her file before leaving California. Intelligence specialist. 8 months at Lewis McCord. The only female officer still documenting Keller's misconduct. The only one who hadn't resigned or requested transfer. The bravest one. Chen looked up. Their eyes met for half a second. Something passed between them. Recognition of a shared experience, maybe. The acknowledgement that they were fighting the same fight. Then Chen looked away. Professional mask firmly in place. Drake handed Riley a clipboard with assessment forms. Standard protocol from here. Physical assessment first, obstacle course, then marksmanship. Tactical scenarios this afternoon. Night exercise at 1900. Understood. Sergeant. Drake lowered his voice. Glanced around to make sure no one was listening. About what happened in Major Keller's office. I didn't know. I mean, I knew how he treated women, but You never stopped it. The words weren't accusatory, just factual. Drake's face flushed. No, I didn't. Why not? He was quiet for a long moment. Because I was afraid. Because Keller has power here. Because I thought following him was the safe play. The smart play. Was it? Drake looked at her. Really looked at her. Like he was seeing himself clearly for the first time. No, he said quietly. It wasn't. Riley let the moment hold. Then, everyone makes choices, Lieutenant. The question is whether you make better ones going forward. She turned away, started walking toward the obstacle course. Sergeant Morgan? She stopped, looked back. Drake stood there, something struggling behind his eyes. Finally. Good luck on the assessment, though I don't think you need it. Riley nodded once. Then she was gone. The obstacle course sprawled across 2 acres of Washington terrain. Walls, rope climbs, water obstacles, cargo nets. Everything designed to break ordinary soldiers. Riley wasn't ordinary. She lined up with 11 other candidates. 10 men, 1 woman besides herself, a sergeant named Martinez, who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Master Sergeant Elena Vasquez, the range master, stood before them. Weathered face, gray at the temples, carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd seen everything military life could throw at her. Standard assessment protocol, Vasquez announced. Complete the course. Best times advance. We're looking for efficiency, not heroics. Questions. Silence. Good. First candidate, step forward. One by one, soldiers attacked the course. Times ranged from 12 minutes to 18. Most finished exhausted, gasping, bent over with hands on knees. Riley watched, analyzed, noted where others lost time, where the obstacles created bottlenecks, where efficiency could be gained through technique rather than brute strength. Morgan, you're up. She stepped to the start line. Deep breath. Go. She moved. Not like the others had moved, struggling, fighting, forcing their way through. Riley flowed. Each obstacle was a problem to be solved with minimum energy expenditure. Walls became launching points. Ropes became extensions of her arms. Water obstacles were navigated with precision rather than power. The other candidates stopped what they were doing, watched. Even Vasquez's expression shifted, from professional neutrality to something approaching awe. Riley hit the finish line, checked her watch. 12 minutes, 47 seconds. The fastest time in the Academy's history. She wasn't even breathing hard. Vasquez approached. Her voice was low enough that others couldn't hear. Ma'am, that was the most impressive run I've seen in 25 years. And I've seen a lot of runs. Training and repetition mostly. Vasquez shook her head. That wasn't training, ma'am. That was something else. She glanced around, lowered her voice further. Also, Major Keller sent word an hour ago. Told me to make sure your assessment had complications. Riley's expression didn't change. What kind of complications? The kind that make candidates fail. Vasquez's jaw tightened. I logged his order, wrote up a formal statement. That's not how we do things. Not in my army. Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you, ma'am, for showing these boys what right looks like. Vasquez straightened. Marksmanship assessment is in 30 minutes. I suggest you hydrate. She walked away. Riley stood alone on the course, felt the weight of what she was building. Evidence, documentation, the kind of thing that made cases bulletproof. One piece at a time, one witness at a time. The sun climbed higher over Lewis McCord, and somewhere in his office, Thomas Keller was realizing that the woman he'd tried to humiliate wasn't just fighting back. She was taking everything from him. And she was just getting started. The marksmanship range sat at the northern edge of the base. Riley arrived 15 minutes early, found her assigned lane, checked the weapon waiting for her standard M4 carbine military issue, nothing special. She picked it up, ran her hands along the barrel, checked the sight alignment, pulled back the charging handle. Something was wrong. The ammunition in the magazine felt lighter than it should. She ejected one round, examined it closely. The brass casing looked normal, but the weight distribution was off. Subtle. Almost undetectable, unless you'd spent thousands of hours with weapons just like this one. Someone had tampered with her ammunition. Riley smiled. Not a pleasant smile. The smile of someone who'd just been handed exactly what she needed. She slid the round back into the magazine, slapped it into the rifle, said nothing. Let them think their sabotage would work. The other candidates arrived. 11 soldiers, most of them men, spreading out across the firing lanes. Drake appeared at the range master's station, clipboard in hand. His eyes found Riley. Something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe. Or warning. Master Sergeant Vasquez stepped forward. Standard marksmanship protocol. Targets at 100, 300, and 500 meters. 3 rounds per distance. Best groupings advance. She paused. Any questions? Silence. First candidates step forward. Riley was in the third group. She watched the first 2 rotations carefully. Solid shooting. Nothing exceptional. Times and groupings that would pass but wouldn't impress. Morgan, you're up. She stepped to her lane, raised the rifle, settled into position. First target, 100 meters. She squeezed the trigger. Click. Misfire. The round hadn't discharged properly, exactly as she'd expected. Riley didn't react, didn't show frustration. She cleared the chamber with practiced efficiency, ejected the faulty round, and chambered the next one. Fired. Click. Another misfire. Vasquez was watching now. So was Drake. So were the other candidates. Riley cleared the second round. Chambered the third. This time she adjusted her grip slightly, changed the angle of the rifle by 2 degrees, compensated for whatever had been done to the ammunition. Squeezed. Bang! The round discharged, hit center mass on the target. She repeated the process. Clear, adjust, compensate, fire. Each round that failed, she logged mentally. Each round that fired, she placed exactly where it needed to go. By the time she finished the 500-meter distance, she'd had 7 misfires out of 9 rounds. But the 2 that had fired, perfect groupings. Touching each other. Dead center. Vasquez approached after the exercise. Her face was unreadable. That ammunition was defective, ma'am. I noticed. 7 misfires in 9 rounds. That's not coincidence. That's sabotage. Riley met her eyes. Did you log it? I logged everything. The ammunition serial numbers, the failure rate, the fact that no other candidate had a single misfire all morning. Vasquez's voice dropped. Major Keller is going to regret this. Make sure that documentation reaches Admiral Shaw, Inspector General's office. Keep copies for yourself. Already done, ma'am. Vasquez hesitated. There's something else you should know. Lieutenant Chen, the intelligence officer, she's been asking about you. Careful like, the way someone asks when they're scared of being overheard. Riley nodded. I'll find her. Supply building. Basement level. She takes her lunch break there. Alone. Vasquez glanced around. Ma'am, whatever you're doing here, whatever this really is, some of us have been waiting a long time for someone to do it. She walked away before Riley could respond. The sun had climbed higher. Noon approached. Riley had 2 hours before the tactical scenarios began. Time to find Sophia Chen. The supply building was quiet. Most personnel were at lunch in the main mess hall. Riley descended to the basement level, found a small break room at the end of a long corridor. Sophia Chen sat alone at a table picking at food she clearly wasn't eating. She looked up when Riley entered. Fear flashed across her face, followed quickly by recognition, then something that might have been hope. You're her, Chen whispered. The one from this morning. The one who made Keller back down. Riley closed the door. Lieutenant Chen, we need to talk. How do you know my name? Admiral Marcus Shaw briefed me before I came here. He told me about the complaints, the documentation, the fact that you've been gathering evidence for 8 months while everyone else either quit or transferred. Chen's hands trembled. She set down her fork. You're working with Shaw. I'm working to remove Thomas Keller from command. Permanently. Riley sat across from her. I'm told you can help with that. Silence stretched between them. Chen studied Riley's face, looking for deception, looking for the trap she'd probably learned to expect from everyone in uniform. Finally, she spoke. My sister was stationed here 2 years ago. Riley waited. Her name was Jessica. She was 22. Army intelligence like me. She believed in the mission, believed in service. Chen's voice cracked. She reported Keller for harassment, sexual comments, inappropriate touching, creating a hostile work environment. What happened? They buried it, said she was making trouble, hurting unit cohesion. They told her to keep her head down and do her job. Tears formed at the edges of Chen's eyes. 6 months later, she couldn't take it anymore. The sentence didn't need finishing. Riley's jaw tightened. I'm sorry about your sister. She was brave. She did everything right. Filed the proper reports, followed the proper channels, and the system destroyed her for it. Chen wiped her eyes roughly. After she died, I requested transfer here. I wanted to see for myself what kind of man had done this to her. I wanted to understand. And what did you find? A monster wearing a uniform. Chen reached into her bag, pulled out a phone and a small hard drive. 8 months of documentation, recorded conversations, internal communications, witness statements from women who were too scared to file formal complaints, everything I could gather without getting caught. She slid them across the table. Riley picked up the phone, scrolled through the files. Recordings, dozens of them. Photographs of inappropriate messages. Screenshots of emails where complaints were dismissed or redirected. It was everything. This is comprehensive, Riley said quietly. This could end careers. That's the point, Chen leaned forward. But I couldn't do anything with it. Every time I tried to go through channels, the report disappeared. Every time I talked to a superior, suddenly I was the one under investigation for misconduct. Her voice hardened. Keller has friends everywhere. People who protect him because he protects them. Not anymore. Chen's eyes searched Riley's face. You really think you can stop him? Riley thought about the failed SEAL, who'd spent 19 years bitter about his inadequacy. The man who couldn't stand women succeeding where he'd failed. The predator who'd grown comfortable believing no one would ever hold him accountable. I know I can, she said. The question is whether you're brave enough to testify when the time comes. I am. No hesitation. I've been ready for 8 months. I just needed someone to listen. Riley stood. Keep documenting everything that happens today. Times. Witnesses. If Keller or his people say anything, do anything, I want it logged. Tonight's exercise is when he'll make his move. He's desperate now. Desperate people make mistakes. Chen stood as well, extended her hand. Riley shook it. One more thing, Chen said. Lieutenant Drake. He's been Keller's enforcer for 2 years, done things he shouldn't have done. But lately, she paused. Something's different about him. He's been asking questions, looking at Keller differently. I know. You saved his life. Helmand Province. He talks about it sometimes when he's drunk. The operator who came through the smoke. The woman who dragged him to safety. Chen's eyes met hers. He never knew it was a woman until today. Did he? Riley said nothing. Be careful with him, Chen continued. He wants to be better. But wanting and doing aren't the same thing. When the pressure comes, people show who they really are. That's what I'm counting on. Riley left the supply building. The afternoon sun hit her face, warm despite the season. Somewhere across the base, Thomas Keller was planning his next move. Probably the night exercise. Probably something designed to make her fail so spectacularly that no one would believe her accusations. Let him plan. She'd adapt. The tactical scenarios began at 1400. 4 separate exercises designed to test decision-making under pressure. Room clearing, hostage negotiation, ambush response, leadership under fire. Riley moved through each one with the efficiency of someone who'd done the real thing so many times that simulations felt almost boring. Room clearing fastest time 0 errors. Hostage negotiation successful resolution in under 4 minutes. Ambush response 0 casualties. Threat neutralized. Leadership under fire team objectives achieved with 30% of the time remaining. The other candidates watched her with a mixture of awe and resentment. The men who'd laughed that morning weren't laughing anymore. They'd seen something they couldn't explain, a 20-year-old woman performing at a level that most career soldiers would never reach. Drake observed from the sidelines. His expression had changed throughout the day. Less conflicted, more certain, like a man making up his mind about something important. After the final scenario, he approached her. Sergeant Morgan. Riley turned. Lieutenant. Drake glanced around, made sure they weren't being overheard. The night exercise. Keller's planning something. I know. You know? Drake's surprise was genuine. How? Because he's already tried sabotage twice today and failed. His ammunition tampering didn't work. His obstacle course complications didn't work. He's running out of options. Riley's voice stayed level. The night exercise is his last chance to discredit me before I have enough evidence to bury him. Drake was quiet for a moment. He's going to feed you false intelligence during the mission, order you into a trap, make you disobey direct orders so he can court-martial you for insubordination. That's exactly what I expect him to do. Then why are you still going through with it? Riley met his eyes. Because I need him to do it. I need him to give the order. I need witnesses who hear him issue commands designed to compromise the mission. And then I need to succeed anyway, so there's no question that the failure would have been manufactured. Drake stared at her. You're using yourself as bait. I'm using his arrogance against him. He thinks I'm just another victim. He doesn't understand that I've been building a case against him since the moment I walked through his office door. What do you need from me? The question hung in the air. This was the moment. The choice that would define who Marcus Drake really was. Riley studied his face, saw the conflict there, the fear, the shame, but also something else, the desperate hope of a man who wanted to redeem himself for years of wrong choices. Tonight, during the exercise, you're going to have to decide. When Keller gives the false order, you can follow him. Stay safe. Keep your career intact. She paused. Or you can stand with me. Document what really happened. Testify to what you saw. If I do that, I'm finished. Keller will destroy me. Maybe. Or maybe you'll be the officer who helped expose corruption at the highest levels of this command. The one who chose honor over convenience. Riley's voice softened slightly. 3 years ago, someone dragged you out of a kill zone when it would have been easier to leave you behind. I didn't do that because it was safe. I did it because it was right. Drake's eyes glistened. He blinked rapidly, looked away. I was so ashamed, he whispered, when I realized it was you. All this time I've been following Keller, doing his dirty work, and the person who saved my life was the kind of soldier I should have been all along. You can still be that soldier. It's not too late. How do you know? Because you're standing here asking me what you can do to help. Riley put her hand on his shoulder briefly. That's the beginning. The rest is up to you. She walked away, left him standing there with his choices and his conscience. The sun was setting. 1800. 1 hour until the night exercise. Riley found a quiet corner, sat down, closed her eyes. She thought about Admiral Shaw dying of cancer, spending his final months trying to fix a system that had failed so many people. She thought about Jessica Chen, 22 years old, destroyed by the very institution she'd wanted to serve. She thought about all the women who'd come before her, the ones who'd reported and been ignored, the ones who'd fought back and been crushed, the ones who'd simply survived by staying invisible. Tonight she would fight for all of them. Her phone buzzed. Text from Shaw. Whatever happens tonight, remember, the mission isn't just removing one man. It's proving that the system can work, that accountability is possible, that honor still means something. She typed back. Understood, sir. Another buzz. I'm proud of you, Riley. Your parents would be proud too. Riley stared at that message for a long time. Her parents had both been military. Both killed in action when she was 16. Shaw had been her father's commanding officer. He'd taken responsibility for her training, her career, her future. He was the closest thing to family she had left. Don't die yet, she typed. I still need you to pin my next rank. The response came quickly. Then you better earn it. Go to work. Riley smiled, stood up, walked toward the staging area. 1900, full dark. The kill house complex waited. 12 soldiers stood in formation. Full combat kit. Night vision mounted but raised. Weapons loaded with blank ammunition. Major Thomas Keller stood before them. His face was composed, but his eyes betrayed him. Fear lived there now. Desperation. The look of a man who knew his world was crumbling and would do anything to stop it. Tonight's exercise is a hostage rescue scenario, he announced. 6 casualties inside the structure. Unknown number of enemy combatants. 15-minute time limit. He looked directly at Riley. Sergeant Morgan, your team leader. The words were calm, professional. But underneath them, Riley heard what he was really saying. I'm giving you just enough rope to hang yourself. Understood, sir. Radio frequency is 34.5. I'll be in the observation tower providing tactical updates. Keller's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Any questions? Rules of engagement. Treat all threats as hostile. Blank ammunition only. Casualties are marked with red tape. Extract them to the southern exit point. He paused. Clear. Crystal clear, sir. The soldiers moved toward the entry point. Riley gathered them in a tight circle. Drake, you're on point. First through every door. Trust your training. She assigned positions quickly. Brooks, rear security. Nobody comes up behind us. Brooks glared at her. He was still loyal to Keller. Still convinced that following the powerful man was the smart play. Standard stack formation, Riley continued. Maintain interval. Communicate constantly. We clear every corner, every closet, every shadow. Questions. Silence. Good. Let's move. The team approached the southern entry point. Riley took position second in the stack directly behind Drake. She could feel his tension. Adrenaline and fear. And something else, the nervous energy of a man who'd made his choice and was waiting to see if he had the courage to follow through. She keyed her radio. Actual, this is ground team. Beginning entry now. Keller's voice crackled back cold and professional. Copy, ground team. Proceed with caution. Drake kicked the door. It swung inward. Smoke poured out. Strobe lights flashed. The chaos was immediate and intentional. Move, Riley commanded. They flowed through the door. Into the unknown. Into whatever trap Keller had prepared. And Riley smiled in the darkness. Because she was ready for all of it. The smoke was thick enough to taste. Riley moved through it like she'd moved through 100 burning buildings before controlled, deliberate, every sense heightened to maximum alert. Drake pushed forward on point. His movements were crisp, professional. Whatever doubts he carried, they weren't showing in his technique. Left door, he called out. 2 contacts. 2 role players stepped into the corridor. Drake engaged. Double tap each. Both dropped, indicating hits. Clear left. Riley advanced behind him. Push forward. Keep momentum. The team flowed through the structure like water, room by room, corner by corner. The training was automatic. Thousands of repetitions burned into muscle memory until thought became unnecessary. First casualty located. Red tape on the arm. Riley grabbed the soldier playing the role. Casualty secured. Brooks, bring him to the extraction point. Brooks hesitated. Just a fraction of a second. His eyes met hers with something that looked like defiance. Now, Sergeant. He moved. Reluctantly. But he moved. 4 minutes in. 1 casualty extracted. 5 remaining. Riley's radio crackled. Keller's voice came through calm and professional. Ground team be advised. We're tracking movement in Sector 2. Possible hostile reinforcement. Proceed with caution. Copy actual. She didn't believe a word of it, but she filed the information away. Let him build his trap. Let him think she was walking into it blind. Second floor, Drake called. Stairwell clear. The team ascended. The strobes were worse up here, disorienting. The smoke thicker. Visibility dropped to maybe 8 feet. This was where lesser teams fell apart, where panic crept in, where discipline collapsed under sensory overload. Riley felt nothing but focus. Contact right. One of the soldiers behind her. Martinez, the female sergeant who'd looked so uncomfortable that morning, engaged a role player emerging from a doorway. Clean shots. Target down. Good hit, Martinez. Keep moving. They cleared the second floor systematically. Found 2 more casualties. Extracted them. 8 minutes in. 3 casualties secured. 3 remaining. Then Keller's voice came through again. Different tone now. Urgent. Almost panicked. Ground team, this is actual. We have confirmed hostile reinforcement in Sector 3. Multiple contacts moving to your position from the south. You are in danger of being cut off from your extraction point. Riley signaled the team to hold. Everyone froze. Repeat actual. I said you have hostiles converging on Sector 3. They will reach your southern exit in approximately 2 minutes. You need to abort the extraction and fall back to Rally Point Alpha immediately. Acknowledge. The team looked at Riley, waiting, trusting her to make the call. She moved to a window, looked toward Sector 3, the area Keller claimed was swarming with enemy reinforcements. Empty. No movement. No sound signatures? Nothing. The kill house was designed to amplify noise. If hostiles were moving through Sector 3, she'd hear footsteps. Equipment rattling. Something. Silence. The intelligence was false. Ground team, did you copy? Keller's voice, again more insistent. Enemy reinforcement Sector 3. Abort extraction. Fall back now. That is a direct order. Drake was watching her. His face showed the conflict years of conditioning telling him to follow orders, but something deeper telling him those orders were wrong. Riley keyed her radio. Her voice was level, controlled. Actual ground team requesting confirmation on Sector 3 contact. I have no visual or audio confirmation of hostile movement. Please verify. 3 seconds of silence. Then Keller's voice came back hard, angry, the professional mask slipping. Ground team, that is confirmed intelligence. Enemy reinforcements are moving on your position. You will abort extraction and fall back. That is a direct order from command. Acknowledge immediately. The moment stretched. Everyone in that corridor was watching Riley, waiting to see what she would do. Follow orders from a commander she knew was lying, or trust her own assessment and risk court-martial for insubordination. She thought about Sophia Chen and her dead sister. She thought about Admiral Shaw dying of cancer, fighting to prove that honor still meant something. She thought about every woman who'd been crushed by men like Keller because they followed rules that were designed to protect the powerful. Not tonight. Negative actual. Her voice carried through the corridor. Clear. Certain. Final. Your intelligence is faulty. I have direct line of sight to Sector 3. There is no hostile movement, no audio signatures, no thermal indication. We are proceeding with extraction as briefed. Keller's response was immediate, furious. Ground team, you are disobeying a direct order. I'm commanding you to abort and fall back. Do you understand the consequences of what you're doing? Riley looked at her team, Drake, Martinez, Brooks, the others. "Yes, sir," she said quietly. "I understand perfectly." She switched off her radio. Complete silence. Then she turned to face them. "That intel was fabricated, designed to make us fail. I've seen the ground he's describing. There's nothing there." Her eyes moved across each face. "We have 3 casualties remaining. We have time on the clock. We are going to complete this mission exactly as briefed." Brooks stepped forward. His face was red, angry. "You're going to get us all court-martialed. Keller is going to answer for what he's done." Riley's voice cut through his protest like a blade. "Right now I'm team leader. My responsibility. My decision. If you want to fall back, fall back. But I'm completing this mission." Brooks didn't move. Couldn't move. The weight of the moment had frozen him in place. Drake spoke. His voice was quiet but firm. "I'm with you, Sergeant Morgan." Martinez stepped forward. "Me too." One by one, the others nodded. Even Brooks, after a long moment of internal struggle, gave a curt nod. "Then let's finish this. Drake, you're still on point. Move." They pushed forward, through the corridor, into the last section of the structure. The smoke was beginning to thin, the strobes less frequent. "Contact left." Drake engaged 2 more role players, both down. "Room clear." Riley spotted the 5th casualty, grabbed him, passed him back to Martinez. "One more. Keep moving." They cleared the final rooms in 90 seconds, found the last casualty in a corner position exactly where the briefing had said he would be. "All casualties secured. Moving to extraction." The southern exit was exactly where it was supposed to be. No hostiles, no ambush, nothing but empty ground and the cool night air. They emerged from the kill house at 11 minutes and 18 seconds, under time limit. All objectives achieved. 0 friendly losses. Mission success. Riley allowed herself one deep breath. Then she saw them. 2 figures approaching from the observation tower. One leaning on a cane, moving slowly but with unmistakable authority. The other in JAG uniform, carrying a briefcase, Admiral Marcus Shaw. And behind them, running, almost sprinting, came Major Thomas Keller. His face was purple with rage, his composure completely shattered. "You disobeyed direct orders!" He was screaming before he even reached them, spittle flying from his lips, veins bulging in his neck. "I gave you tactical intelligence. I commanded you to fall back. You ignored me. Shut off your radio. That's insubordination, dereliction of duty." He stopped 3 feet from Riley, close enough that she could see the madness in his eyes, the desperation of a man watching everything he'd built crumble around him. "I'm going to have you court-martialed for this. I'm going to destroy your career. You'll never serve in uniform again." Riley stood at attention, face neutral, voice calm. "Sir, the intelligence you provided was inaccurate. I made a tactical decision based on direct observation. I don't care about your observations. I gave you an order, you disobeyed it." "Thomas!" Admiral Shaw's voice cut through Keller's tirade like a knife through fog. Quiet, controlled, absolutely authoritative. Keller spun around, saw Shaw for the first time. The color drained from his face. "Admiral, what are you doing here?" Shaw stepped forward. The cane took more weight than it should, but his eyes were sharp, clear. The eyes of a man who had spent decades commanding warriors and had 0 patience for those who betrayed that honor. "Major Thomas Keller, under the authority of the Inspector General's office, you are being placed under immediate investigation." The JAG officer opened his briefcase, removed a folder, handed it to Keller. The charges include conduct unbecoming an officer, abuse of authority, sexual harassment, obstruction of military justice, and conspiracy to falsify assessment results. Keller's hands shook as he took the folder. He didn't open it. Couldn't open it. His eyes stayed fixed on Shaw's face, searching for some sign that this wasn't real, that there was still a way out. This is a setup, he stammered. She planned this. She came here because I sent her. Shaw's voice carried no emotion, just facts. I sent her because 3 women filed formal complaints against you in the last 14 months. All 3 were buried by officers who valued convenience over justice. He took another step forward. Keller took one back. I sent her because Lieutenant Jessica Chen killed herself 6 months after you destroyed her career for reporting your misconduct. Her sister has been documenting your behavior ever since. 8 months of recordings, internal communications, witness statements. Shaw's cane tapped against the ground. Punctuation. I sent her because you spent 19 years bitter about failing SEAL selection. 19 years taking out that failure on anyone you perceived as weaker. 19 years proving that you were never worthy of the uniform you wear. Keller's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I have friends, division level. They'll never let you. Your friends are currently being questioned by the Inspector General's office. Shaw's thin smile held no warmth. It's remarkable how quickly loyalty evaporates when people realize the ship is sinking. The JAG officer stepped forward. Sir, you'll need to surrender your sidearm and accompany these officers to administrative holding. 2 MPs had appeared. Riley hadn't noticed them approach. They flanked Keller on either side. This isn't over, Keller hissed. He was looking at Riley now, hatred burning in his eyes. You think you've won? You have no idea what you've started. Riley met his gaze, held it. I know exactly what I've started, sir. Justice. Something you should have faced a long time ago. The MPs took his arms. Keller struggled for a moment, instinct maybe, or the last desperate thrashing of a man who'd never been held accountable for anything. Then the fight went out of him. They led him away. His boots scraped against the ground. His head hung. The confident predator from that morning had vanished completely. Shaw watched him go. Something flickered across his weathered face. Satisfaction, maybe? Or just the quiet acknowledgement that justice had finally been served. Then he turned to Riley. You disobeyed a direct order from a superior officer. Yes, sir. You turned off your radio during an active operation. Yes, sir. You completed the mission anyway. Under time. All objectives achieved. 0 casualties. Yes, sir. Shaw's eyes crinkled. The closest thing to a smile Riley had seen from him in months. That's my girl. He put a hand on her shoulder. Squeezed briefly. The gesture said more than words ever could. There will be a formal inquiry. You'll need to testify. Everything you documented, everything Lieutenant Chen gathered, everything Sergeant Vasquez logged, it all goes into the record. I understand, sir. This isn't just about Keller anymore. Shaw's voice dropped. More serious now. What happened here tonight is going to send ripples through the entire command structure. People are going to be angry. People are going to push back. Some of them have a lot of power. I know. Are you ready for that? Riley thought about the question. Thought about what it would mean to become the face of this fight. The woman who had taken down a major. The operator who had exposed corruption that powerful people wanted to stay buried. I've been ready my whole career, sir. Shaw nodded. I know you have. He turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. Lieutenant Drake, Drake stepped forward. He'd been standing at the edge of the group, silent, watching everything unfold. "Sir, Master Sergeant Vasquez tells me you refused an order to sabotage Sergeant Morgan's obstacle course this morning. You also provided her with information about Major Keller's plans for tonight's exercise." Drake's jaw tightened. "Yes, sir, I did." "Why?" The question hung in the air. Drake glanced at Riley. Something passed between them. Acknowledgement, maybe. Understanding. "Because 3 years ago someone saved my life, when it would have been easier to leave me behind. I didn't know who she was until today." He straightened. "Sergeant Morgan taught me something this morning. She taught me that doing right matters more than being safe. I should have learned that lesson a long time ago." Shaw studied him for a long moment. "That's a good answer, Lieutenant. The Inspector General will want your testimony as well. Full account of everything you witnessed under Keller's command." "I'll tell them everything, sir. Everything I saw. Everything I did." Drake's voice cracked slightly. "I'm not proud of all of it, but I'll own it. That's all anyone can ask." Shaw turned and walked toward the waiting vehicle. The JAG officer followed. Riley watched them go until they disappeared into the darkness. The other soldiers had dispersed. Back to barracks. Back to processing what they'd just witnessed. The night exercise that had ended with a major being led away in custody. Only Drake remained. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the night settling around them. "What happens now?" Drake asked. "Now we wait. Testimony. Investigation. The system does what it's supposed to do." Riley paused. "Assuming it works this time? And if it doesn't, then we find another way. We keep fighting until someone listens." Drake nodded slowly. "Keller was right about one thing. You didn't come here just for an assessment." "No. How long were you planning this?" "Admiral Shaw contacted me 3 weeks ago, the day after Jessica Chen's sister submitted her 8th formal complaint, the 8th one that got buried." Drake was quiet for a long moment. All those women, all those complaints, and nothing ever happened. Something's happening now. Because of you. Riley shook her head. Because of Sophia Chen. Because of her sister. Because of every woman who filed a complaint knowing it would probably be ignored. I'm just the one who was in a position to do something about it. Drake looked at her. Really looked at her. "You're wrong," he said quietly. "You're not just someone in position. You're the kind of soldier I should have been following all along." He saluted. Crisp. Sharp. The salute of someone who meant it. Riley returned the gesture. Drake walked away into the darkness, toward whatever came next for him. Testimony. Investigation. The long process of rebuilding a career on foundations of honesty instead of convenience. Riley stood alone. The night was quiet now. The chaos of the exercise, the confrontation, the arrest, all of it faded into stillness. She touched her shoulder, felt the trident tattoo through the fabric of her uniform. Justice had been served tonight. One man removed from command. One corrupt officer finally facing consequences for years of abuse. But Shaw was right. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. And somewhere in the darkness, Riley knew that the people who had protected Keller for so long were already planning their response. She'd be ready. She'd been ready her whole life. The next 72 hours moved like a hurricane. Riley spent the first day in a windowless room at the Inspector General's office. 3 investigators. 14 hours of questions. Every detail of her time at Lewis McCord documented, recorded, cross-referenced. She told them everything. The moment Keller ordered her to remove her jacket, the sabotaged ammunition, the false intelligence during the night exercise. Every word, every look, every calculated humiliation designed to break her down. The lead investigator was a colonel named Patricia Webb. Gray hair, sharp eyes, the look of someone who'd spent decades separating truth from lies. "Sergeant Morgan, you're asking us to believe that a decorated major with 18 years of service deliberately sabotaged a training assessment and issued false tactical intelligence to force you into insubordination. I'm not asking you to believe anything, ma'am. I'm telling you what happened. Master Sergeant Vasquez logged the ammunition tampering. Lieutenant Chen has 8 months of recordings. Lieutenant Drake witnessed the false intelligence order." Lieutenant Drake was Major Keller's executive officer. He followed Keller's orders for 2 years. "Yes, ma'am, and he's prepared to testify about every one of those orders." Colonel Webb studied her for a long moment. Riley didn't blink, didn't look away. She'd stared down enemy combatants in Helmand Province. A skeptical investigator was nothing. "Do you understand what happens if this case proceeds?" Webb asked finally. "Major Keller has allies, powerful ones, people who won't appreciate having their protection network exposed." "I understand, ma'am." "They'll come after you, your career, your reputation, everything you've built." Riley thought about Admiral Shaw, about Jessica Chen dead at 22 because the system failed her, about all the women who'd been crushed by men like Keller while the powerful looked the other way. "Let them come." Webb's expression shifted. Something that might have been respect flickered across her face. "Very well, Sergeant. We'll need you to remain available for follow-up interviews. Don't leave the base." "Understood, ma'am." Riley left the IG office as the sun was setting. 40 hours without sleep. Her body ached. Her mind felt sharp, but brittle, like glass that had been heated too many times. Her phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. "You think you've won? You haven't. This isn't over." She stared at the message for 3 seconds, then deleted it. They were already making their move. The next morning, Riley was summoned to the commanding general's office. Major General Howard Preston, 3 stars. Commander of Joint Base Lewis McCord, a man who had signed off on burying at least one of the complaints against Keller. His office was larger than it needed to be. Flags, certificates, photos with politicians, all the trappings of a man who cared very much about appearances. Preston sat behind his desk, didn't stand when Riley entered, didn't offer a seat. "Sergeant Morgan." His voice was cold, clipped. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Sir, I followed proper protocol in reporting. You've created a media circus." Preston cut her off. "Reporters are already calling. Congressional staffers are asking questions. An 18-year career is being destroyed based on the accusations of a 20-year-old enlisted woman." Riley kept her face neutral. "Sir Major Keller's conduct has been documented by multiple witnesses over a period of, I know what's been documented." Preston's eyes narrowed. "I also know that this investigation is going to expand, that every decision made regarding personnel complaints over the last 3 years is going to be scrutinized." There it was. The real fear. Not that Keller would face justice, that the people who protected him would be exposed. "That's not my concern, sir. My concern is ensuring that soldiers under my command, you don't have soldiers under your command." Preston's voice rose. "You're a guest here, a transfer candidate. You came into my base, disrupted my training program, and destroyed one of my officers. I came here to expose a predator, sir. That mission is complete." Preston stood. Slowly, his face had gone red. "You think Admiral Shaw can protect you? Shaw is dying. He has no power anymore, no position, no influence." He leaned forward. "When this is over, when the investigation concludes and the attention fades, you'll still have to serve somewhere. And I have a very long memory. Riley met his gaze, held it. Sir, with respect, I've been threatened by men far more dangerous than you. They're dead now. I'm not. She turned and walked out before he could respond. Her phone buzzed again as she crossed the courtyard. Different number. Same message format. Your admiral is dying. Your career is over. Walk away now, and maybe you survive this. She deleted it. Kept walking. 2 days later, the first leak hit the press. Someone had given a reporter Riley's personnel file. Selectively edited. Missing key deployments. Missing the SEAL qualification. Making her look like an unqualified troublemaker with a history of insubordination. The headline read, "Female soldiers' accusations against decorated major raise questions about motives." Riley read the article on her phone. Felt nothing. She'd expected this. Character assassination was the first defense of the powerful when evidence couldn't be disputed. Admiral Shaw called that evening. "You've seen the article." "Yes, sir." "They're going to get worse. More leaks, more attacks. They'll question everything about you, your competence, your mental stability, your motives." His voice was tired, weaker than she remembered. "Are you prepared for that?" "I grew up watching this happen to other women, sir. The playbook isn't new." "No, but it's effective." Shaw paused, coughed. The sound was wet, painful. "The IG is accelerating the investigation. They want to move before the political pressure gets too intense. How long? Court-martial proceedings will begin in 60 days. You'll be called to testify. So will Chen. So will Drake. And Keller, confined to quarters. His lawyers are already claiming the investigation is biased, that you entrapped him." Another pause. "They're also claiming you and I had a personal relationship, that this is revenge for some perceived slight." Riley's jaw tightened. "That's a lie." "I know, but lies don't have to be true to be effective." Shaw's voice softened. "I need you to understand something, Riley. Whatever happens in that courtroom, whatever they throw at you, you've already won. Sir, you showed them it was possible. You showed every woman watching that someone could fight back and survive. That the system could be forced to work even when powerful people wanted it to fail." He coughed again, longer this time. "That matters more than any verdict." Riley closed her eyes, felt the weight of his words settling around her. "How are you feeling, sir?" "Tired. The doctors say 6 months. Maybe less." A thin laugh. "But I intend to live long enough to watch Thomas Keller face a panel of his peers and answer for what he's done. Then I'll make sure you get that satisfaction, sir. I know you will. That's why I chose you." The line went dead. Riley sat alone in her quarters for a long time, thinking about Shaw, about the man who'd championed her through SEAL training when everyone else wanted her to fail, who'd staked his reputation on her being the best, who was spending his final months fighting to prove that honor still meant something. She wouldn't let him down. The next week brought more attacks. Another leak. This time, audio recordings supposedly proving that Riley had planned the confrontation with Keller. The recordings were obviously edited sentences cut and rearranged to change their meaning, but the damage was done. Television pundits debated whether female soldiers belonged in elite training programs. Comment sections filled with hatred. Riley's name became a battleground for larger arguments about the military, about gender, about power. She ignored all of it, focused on what mattered. Lieutenant Sophia Chen came to see her on the 8th day. "They know about my sister." Chen's voice was hollow. His voice was, her eyes red from crying. "A reporter called my parents yesterday. Asked if Jessica's suicide was really about Major Keller, or if she had other issues." Her hands were shaking. "They're trying to destroy her memory, even now, even after everything." Riley put a hand on Chen's shoulder. They're scared. That's why they're attacking. If they weren't scared, they'd ignore us. I can't watch them do this to her. She was the best person I knew. She believed in everything. In duty, in service, in the mission. Tears streamed down Chen's face. And they're turning her into a story about a troubled woman who couldn't handle the pressure. Then we make sure the truth comes out. Your testimony, your documentation, your voice. Riley's grip tightened. Jessica's story ends in that courtroom. You get to decide how. Chen wiped her eyes, straightened slowly. I'm scared. Good. Being scared means you understand what's at stake. Riley met her eyes. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's deciding that something matters more than the fear. What if they destroy my career too? Then we build new careers, better ones, ones where we don't have to pretend that people like Keller don't exist. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay. Okay, I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. About Jessica. About Keller. About all of it. Her voice steadied. They don't get to define my sister's story, I do. Riley smiled. The first real smile in days. There's the officer I knew was in there somewhere. Drake came to her the next evening. He looked different. Thinner. The easy confidence from before was gone, completely replaced by something rawer, more honest. They offered me a deal. Riley looked up from the reports she'd been reviewing. What kind of deal? If I testify that Major Keller's orders were legitimate, that you misinterpreted the tactical intelligence and disobeyed a lawful command, they'll make this all go away. And he sat down heavily. No investigation into my actions, no mark on my record, full pension when I retire. Who offered? General Preston's aide. Very unofficial conversation. Very deniable. Riley studied his face. What did you say? I told him I needed to think about it. Drake's jaw tightened. Then I came here to tell you I'm not going to do it. Why? Because it's wrong. He looked at her. 3 years ago you dragged me out of a kill zone. You didn't know if I was worth saving. You just knew it was the right thing to do. His voice cracked. I've spent 2 years following Thomas Keller, doing things I knew were wrong because it was easier than standing up. I'm done being that person. They'll destroy your career. Maybe. Drake shrugged. But I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. I'll be able to tell my daughter when she's old enough that her father chose right over easy. He paused. That's worth more than a pension. Riley stood, extended her hand. Drake took it. Welcome to the right side, Lieutenant. Better late than never, Sergeant. The court-martial began 62 days after Keller's arrest. Riley entered the courtroom in her dress uniform. Ribbons aligned precisely. Posture perfect. Every inch the decorated special warfare operator she'd spent 3 years becoming. The gallery was packed. Military personnel, press, observers from Congress. Admiral Shaw sat in the front row, leaning on his cane, looking frailer than Riley had ever seen him, but refusing to be anywhere else. Thomas Keller sat at the defense table. He'd lost weight. His eyes were hollow. The confident predator from that first morning had been replaced by something smaller, more desperate. Their eyes met for one moment. Riley saw hatred there. Fear. Disbelief. The look of a man who still couldn't understand how a 20-year-old woman had destroyed everything he'd built. She showed him nothing. Turned away. The prosecution called its witnesses. Master Sergeant Vasquez testified about the ammunition tampering. Her voice was steady, professional. She produced logs, serial numbers, documentation that proved beyond doubt that Keller had ordered sabotage. Lieutenant Chen took the stand for 3 hours. She played recordings, showed emails, walked the panel through 8 months of documented harassment, buried complaints, and systemic cover-ups. When she talked about her sister, her voice broke. Jessica wanted to serve her country. That's all she ever wanted. And Major Keller made that impossible. Not because she wasn't good enough, because she was a woman who dared to speak up. The defense attorney tried to interrupt. The military judge overruled him. Chen continued. My sister killed herself because no one would listen. No one would help. No one would hold the man who destroyed her accountable. Her eyes found Keller's. I'm here to make sure her death meant something. The gallery was silent. Riley saw tears on faces throughout the room. Drake testified next. He admitted everything. The sabotage he'd participated in. The orders he'd followed without question. The women he'd watched Keller abuse while doing nothing to stop it. I was a coward, he said quietly. I told myself I was being smart, protecting my career, following the chain of command. He looked at the panel. I was wrong. There's no excuse for what I allowed to happen. I'm here to make it right. The defense attorney tried to paint him as unreliable, as someone who'd turned on Keller to save himself. Drake didn't flinch. I'm not here to save myself. I'm here to tell the truth. For the first time in 2 years, I'm doing the right thing. When it was Riley's turn, she walked to the witness stand with the same steady gait she'd used on 100 missions. Sat down, looked at the panel. The prosecutor began. Sergeant Morgan, please describe for the panel what happened when you first entered Major Keller's office. Riley told them everything. The order to remove her jacket. The contempt in Keller's voice. The moment she'd revealed her identity and watched his face change from predator to prey. She told them about the fabricated intelligence during the night exercise. About the choice she'd made to trust her own assessment over orders she knew were designed to make her fail. The defense attorney tried to break her. Isn't it true that you came to Lewis McCord specifically to target Major Keller? I came to document Major Keller's conduct. That's not the same as targeting. You were working with Admiral Shaw to entrap my client. I was working to expose a pattern of harassment that multiple women had reported through proper channels. All of those reports were buried. You deliberately provoked Major Keller, set up the confrontation. Major Keller ordered me to remove my uniform in front of his officers. I didn't provoke that. I responded to it. And your response was to humiliate a decorated officer. My response was to reveal that the person he thought was vulnerable was actually more qualified than he'd ever been. Riley's voice didn't waver. That's not humiliation. That's truth. The defense attorney tried 3 more angles of attack. Each one failed. Riley answered every question with the same calm precision she'd used during the night exercise. The same unshakable focus that had carried her through SEAL training, through combat deployments, through everything the military had thrown at her. When she stepped down from the stand, Admiral Shaw caught her eye. He nodded once. Pride. Satisfaction. The acknowledgement that she'd done exactly what he'd trained her to do. The panel deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the gallery fell silent. Riley sat between Chen and Drake, felt their tension like electricity in the air. The presiding officer read the verdict. On the charge of conduct unbecoming, an officer guilty. Chen grabbed Riley's hand, squeezed. On the charge of abuse of authority, guilty. Drake let out a breath he'd been holding. On the charge of sexual harassment, guilty. On the charge of obstruction of military justice, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to falsify assessment results, guilty. Keller sat frozen at the defense table. His face was gray, his hands trembled. The presiding officer continued. Major Thomas Keller, you are hereby reduced in rank to O1. You will be discharged from the United States Army under other than honorable conditions. You forfeit all pension benefits. You are barred from military service for life." The gavel came down. It was over. Chen was crying. Drake had his head in his hands. Throughout the gallery, people were standing, embracing, releasing tension that had built over months of fighting. Riley sat still, felt the weight of the moment. One man removed from command. One corrupt officer finally facing consequences. One small victory in a war that would never truly end. But it mattered. It all mattered. Admiral Shaw made his way through the crowd, stopped in front of her. "You did it," he said quietly. "We did it, sir." Shaw shook his head. "No, I gave you the opportunity. You took it and did something remarkable with it." His hand rested on her shoulder. "Your father would have been proud. Your mother, too." Riley felt something crack in her chest. Not breaking, just making room for emotions she'd been holding back for weeks, months, years. "Thank you, sir. For everything." "Don't thank me yet." Shaw's eyes held hers. "This is just the beginning. Keller is gone, but the system that protected him is still there. People like Preston are still in power. The fight continues." "I know. Are you ready for that?" Riley looked around the courtroom, at Chen finally allowing herself to grieve openly for her sister, at Drake finding peace with the choice he'd made, at all the faces watching, hoping, believing that maybe things could be different. "I've been ready my whole life, sir." Shaw smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him in months. "I know you have." 3 months passed like water through open hands. Riley stood in front of a mirror at Naval Special Warfare Center, Coronado, California. The face looking back at her was the same 20 years old, freckled small, but something had shifted behind her eyes. Something harder, more certain. The new rank insignia on her collar still felt unfamiliar. Petty Officer First Class. The promotion had come through 6 weeks after the court-martial. Admiral Shaw had pinned it on himself, his hands trembling, but his grip still firm. "You earned this," he'd said. "Every piece of it." That was the last time she'd seen him standing. Now Riley straightened her uniform, checked the alignment of her ribbons, took one deep breath. She had 30 SEAL candidates waiting for her on the training mat. Phase 3. Combat training. The final crucible before Trident qualification. Time to shape the next generation. The training facility hummed with tension when she entered. 30 bodies stood at attention, ages ranging from 22 to 31. 5 women among them, the highest number in SEAL history. And standing at the back, thinner and harder than she remembered, was Lieutenant Marcus Drake. Their eyes met for a moment. He nodded once. She returned the gesture. He'd made it through Hell Week, made it through dive phase, made it through land warfare. 3 weeks from graduation. The swagger was completely gone now, replaced by something quieter, more dangerous, more real. "Today we're covering close quarters combat," Riley announced. Her voice carried across the mat without effort. Years of commanding and chaos had taught her how to be heard. "The scenarios you'll face in the field don't look like movies. They're chaotic, confusing. You'll have split seconds to make decisions that determine whether you and your teammates survive." She gestured to Drake. "Lieutenant Drake, front and center." He moved forward, came to attention. "At ease. We're going to demonstrate proper technique for confined space engagement. You'll act as the opponent." "Yes, ma'am." They faced each other on the mat. The class formed a circle around them. The key to close quarters combat isn't strength, Riley said. It's leverage, timing, understanding how bodies move and where they're vulnerable. Watch. Drake attacked as instructed. Riley moved like water redirected. His force took him down in 3 seconds, held him in a control position that made escape impossible. See how I used his momentum against him? He committed to the attack. I just guided where that commitment went. She released him. Again. They ran the drill 10 times. Each iteration, Riley pointed out different details: hand placement, foot position, weight distribution, the small technical adjustments that separated competent from exceptional. After the 10th iteration, she held Drake in an arm lock. "What's the biggest lesson you've learned in Buds, Lieutenant?" His voice came strained from the uncomfortable position. "That strength without discipline is just violence, ma'am. Real power comes from control." "Good answer." She released him, helped him up. The class continued for 2 more hours. Riley demonstrated techniques with different body types, showed how smaller operators could defeat larger opponents, how speed and precision mattered more than raw power. When she finally dismissed them for lunch, Drake lingered. "Permission to speak freely, ma'am?" "Granted," and he straightened. "I wanted to thank you again, for the recommendation, for the second chance. You're earning that chance every day you're here. 3 weeks left. Don't waste it." "I won't, ma'am." He paused. "Lewis McCord feels like a different life now, a life where I was following the wrong people for the wrong reasons. We all follow wrong people sometimes. What matters is recognizing it and choosing better." Drake nodded slowly, started to leave, then turned back. "Did you hear about General Preston?" Riley's expression didn't change. "No." "What happened?" "Forced retirement. The IG investigation expanded after Keller's conviction. Turns out Preston signed off on burying at least 6 harassment complaints over the last 5 years. Drake's voice carried satisfaction. "They made an example of him, too." Riley absorbed the information. Preston. The man who'd threatened her career, who'd promised to destroy everything she'd built. Gone. Good. There's more. The Army announced new protocols for harassment reporting, mandatory independent review, no more internal burial. Drake met her eyes. "They're calling it the Chen Protocol, named after Jessica." Something shifted in Riley's chest. A weight she hadn't known she was carrying suddenly felt lighter. "Lieutenant Chen, promoted to captain. She's leading a task force reviewing harassment procedures across all branches, using her documentation as a model for what should happen when someone reports misconduct." Riley smiled, the first genuine smile in weeks. "She earned it. She credits you, says you showed her what it looks like to stand up and fight. She was fighting long before I got there. She just needed someone to amplify her voice." Drake saluted. Riley returned it. He walked away toward the mess hall. Riley stood alone on the training mat for a long moment, thought about the path that had led here. Buds at 17, combat deployments at 18. Lewis McCord. Everything that came after. Her phone buzzed. Text from Sophia Chen: "Just got engaged. Met someone who actually listens when I talk." Weird concept. Also, Jessica's foundation launched today, providing legal support for service members reporting harassment. First-year funding already secured. "Thank you for everything. You changed my life." Riley typed back. "You changed your own life. I just gave you a push. Congratulations on the engagement. Stay strong." She started walking toward her office. Paperwork waited. Training schedules. Personnel evaluations. The administrative burden of leadership. Her phone buzzed again. Different number. The one she'd been dreading. Admiral Shaw's personal aide. Ma'am, Admiral Shaw has been moved to hospice care. He's asking for you. How soon can you get here? Riley's step faltered. Just for a moment. Then she was moving. Running. The hospice facility was 20 minutes from Coronado. Riley made it in 12. Shaw's room was small. Quiet. The machines hummed softly, measuring what remained of a life spent in service. He looked smaller than she remembered. Thinner. The cancer had taken everything except his eyes. Those were still sharp. Still commanding. Riley. His voice was barely a whisper. You came. She sat beside his bed, took his hand. The skin was paper thin. Cold. Of course I came, sir. Don't call me sir anymore. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. I think we're past that. Riley felt tears forming, blinked them back. Marcus, then. Better. He squeezed her hand weakly. I watched. The news. Preston's gone. The new protocols. Jessica Chen's foundation. His eyes found hers. You did that. All of it. We did it. You gave me the mission. The opportunity. I gave you a chance. You took it and changed everything. He coughed. The sound was wet, painful. That's always been your gift. Taking chances and making them matter. Marcus, let me finish. His grip tightened slightly. I've been thinking about your father. We served together, you know. Before you were born. He was the best man I ever knew. Riley's throat tightened. When he died, I promised myself I'd look after you. Make sure his legacy continued. Shaw's eyes glistened. You've exceeded everything I ever imagined. Everything he would have hoped. I had a good teacher. You had talent, drive, something that can't be taught. He closed his eyes briefly, opened them again with visible effort. I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't let this be the end. Keller is gone. Preston is gone. But there will be others. There will always be others. His voice dropped. The fight for honor never finishes. It just passes to new hands. You have to carry it forward. Riley leaned closer. I will. I promise. Train them right. The ones who come after. Show them what leadership looks like when it's done correctly. A tear escaped the corner of his eye. Show them that courage matters more than convenience, that standing up for what's right is worth the cost. I will. Shaw smiled. The expression was peaceful, accepting. Your parents are waiting for me, I think. I'll tell them how proud they should be. Marcus, thank you, Riley, for being the best operator I ever trained, for being the daughter I never had. His eyes closed. I can rest now. I can finally rest. His grip relaxed. The machines continued their soft rhythm for another few minutes. Then they stopped. Riley sat beside him for a long time, held his hand even after it went cold. Let the tears come. Let herself grieve for the man who had believed in her when no one else would. The man who had demanded she be better than everyone else, and then watched her prove it. The man who had shaped everything she'd become. When she finally stood, the sun was setting outside the window, orange and red spreading across the California sky. She touched his forehead gently. Rest well, Marcus. I'll carry it forward. I promise. 2 weeks later, they buried him with full military honors. Riley stood at the graveside in her dress uniform, ribbons aligned. Posture perfect. Beside her stood Sophia Chen, Captain Chen. Now, and Marcus Drake, freshly graduated trident, finally pinned to his chest. The honor guard fired their volleys. The flag was folded, presented to Shaw's sister, his only surviving family. When the ceremony ended, Riley walked to the grave alone, placed her hand on the fresh earth. "I completed my first training rotation yesterday," she said quietly. 30 candidates. Pushed them harder than they thought possible. 5 washed out. The rest are stronger for it. She paused. "There's a woman in the class, Petty Officer Amanda Torres, 19 years old, determined as hell. Reminds me of myself." The wind picked up, carried the smell of the ocean. "I'm going to make sure she has every chance to succeed. The same chances you gave me." Riley straightened. The same demands, the same expectations, and when she earns her trident, she'll carry forward the same lessons. Competence over arrogance, discipline over cruelty, honor over convenience. She touched the earth one final time. "The legacy continues, Marcus. I promise." 6 months later, Riley stood at the edge of the obstacle course watching a new class struggle through their first week. 28 candidates. 6 women, another record. Amanda Torres had graduated 2 months ago. Top of her class. Already assigned to SEAL Team 3. Already making a name for herself as an operator who never quit, never complained, never accepted anything less than excellence. Riley's phone buzzed. Email from the Pentagon. Petty Officer, First Class Riley Morgan. You have been selected for the Navy Cross for actions during classified operations in Syria. Additionally, you have been nominated for promotion to Chief Petty Officer pending review. Your service record speaks for itself. Congratulations. She stared at the message. Read it twice. Navy Cross. The second highest valor award in the Navy. For operations that would never be discussed publicly. For sacrifices that would never be acknowledged. Chief Petty Officer at 21. The youngest in SEAL history. She thought about what Shaw would say. Probably something about not letting it go to her head. Probably a reminder that rank was just a tool, that what mattered was what you did with the authority it provided. She typed a response. Thank you for the notification. I accept the responsibilities that come with both honors. Nothing more. She pocketed the phone, walked toward the obstacle course. One of the first week candidates had fallen from the rope climb. A young woman, maybe 19. Face twisted with exhaustion and frustration. She lay in the sand, breathing hard. Riley approached. The candidate tried to scramble to her feet, could barely stand. What's your name? Seaman Apprentice. Michelle Young, ma'am. How long have you been here, Young? 4 days, ma'am. Hell Week starts in 3 days. You ready? Young's face showed fear and determination in equal measure. The same combination Riley had seen in the mirror 8 years ago. The same combination that separated those who succeeded from those who quit. I don't know, ma'am. I just know I'm not quitting. Riley studied her, saw the fire underneath the exhaustion, the refusal to accept defeat. Good answer. Because Hell Week isn't about being ready. It's about refusing to quit when everything in your body screams to stop. She paused. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am. We'll see. Get back on that rope. Yes, ma'am. Young ran back to the obstacle, started climbing again, fell twice more, got up twice more, kept climbing until she reached the top. Riley watched her go, saw herself in that determination, saw Shaw in her own demanding voice, saw the continuation of everything that mattered. The cycle continued, one generation training the next. each slightly better than the last, each carrying forward the lessons of those who'd fought to make the path exist. That evening, Riley returned to her quarters, sat at her desk, opened her laptop. An email waited from Sophia Chen. Subject line, Year 1 report. Riley Jessica's foundation has provided legal support to 147 service members this year. 43 harassment cases successfully prosecuted. 12 officers removed from command. New reporting protocols adopted by all branches. My sister would be proud. I'm proud. Thank you for making this possible. Thank you for showing us that the fight was worth fighting. Sophia Riley typed back, "The fight is always worth fighting. Keep going. The next 147 are counting on you." She closed the laptop, sat in the darkness for a moment, thought about Thomas Keller, dishonorably discharged, pension, gone, reputation, destroyed. Thought about General Preston, forced into retirement, legacy in ruins. Thought about Marcus Shaw, buried with honors, finally at peace. Thought about all the women who would serve after her, the ones who would face challenges, discrimination, doubt, but who would also have examples to follow. Proof that success was possible. Evidence that the system could be forced to work. That was the real victory. Not destroying careers, not winning court-martials. The real victory was showing everyone watching that honor still mattered, that courage still counted, that standing up for what was right still meant something. Riley walked outside. The California night was clear, stars scattered across the sky like possibilities. Somewhere in the darkness, new candidates were sleeping, resting before another day of suffering, another day of proving themselves, another day closer to earning what they wanted most. Tomorrow she would push them, demand excellence, accept nothing less than their absolute best. And when they succeeded, when they earned their tridents, they would carry forward the same lessons she'd learned from Shaw, the same lessons she would teach until there was no one left to teach. Competence over arrogance, discipline over cruelty, honor over convenience. Always. Riley touched the trident tattoo on her shoulder, felt the weight of everything it represented. Every day of training, every night of missions, every moment where she'd had to be twice as good to be considered half as worthy. She'd earned it all, and now she would make sure the next generation earned theirs the same way. The story didn't end with triumph. It ended with continuation. The quiet knowledge that the fight for honor never finished. It just passed to new hands, new warriors carrying forward the same principles into whatever battles lay ahead. Riley Morgan was ready. She had always been ready. And she would make sure they were ready too. Because that's what warriors did. They endured. They adapted. They overcame. And they made certain the next generation could do the same.